All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1 of the FX on Hulu original series, The Bear. I had no intention of watching this show initially. I didn't know anything about it. I saw trailers and stuff like that. Mainly kind of tied to watching The Old Man, which I also cover on this channel. I would see ads for The Bear, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I've never heard anything about it. But I was listening to the Watch podcast, and they were kind of like hyping it up a little bit. And I still thought, I'll hold off and see. So they released an episode, I want to say, today is Thursday, June 30th. Maybe this past Monday or so, they released an episode where they talked about The Bear. And I didn't listen to it because I didn't listen to it in full because I didn't want to be spoiled on the show. But their lead-in to that portion of the podcast was sufficient enough to get me interested in it. And then I saw a couple of people online talking about it in a real positive light. So I figured, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll watch an episode. Hulu dropped the whole thing on one day. I want to say it was June 23rd or 26th. Look on the graphic here, and whatever date is on there is when they dropped it. And I figured, okay, it's 8 30-minute episodes. I'll give it a shot. I'll check out an episode, see if it's something I want to watch, and if I do, cool, whatever. I had no idea what I was getting into. This show is absolutely fucking incredible, and I'm going to get into why, but I just want to kind of to open by saying, like, this is something that I think is kind of unique in television today because, and in film, television and film nowadays is remakes, reboots, sequels, adaptations of incredibly wildly popular novels or fiction novels or stuff like that, right? And you don't get too much that feels original. So then you kind of have this like second grouping of shows and films where you do get something original, these creative stories, these creative ideas. And these shows like Severance on Apple, they pull you in and keep you in by giving you something you've never seen before. What The Bear does is unique, is outside of both of those in that it doesn't feel rehashed. It does feel like something new and something fresh, but it doesn't have like that hook, right? Like like this conceit where it's like, oh, we're trying to solve this mystery, and now we know over the course of the season we're gonna figure out who committed this crime or whatever this mystery may be, or oh, there's something weird going on here that makes this world a little bit different and we got to get accustomed to it, something like that. That's original. But what this does that's original, at least now, is just good old-fashioned spectacular fucking filmmaking. I mean, this show is great because it performs at the highest level in every aspect of filmmaking that you can have. It is just a masterclass on how to make compelling television or film without any of the bells and whistles, just coming together, building great characters, telling a compelling story about these people, watching these people evolve, grow, have low points, have high points, and bringing in actors who fully fucking commit to this role. Like, I expect multiple Emmy nominations for these actors. And I don't give a fuck how popular this show is right now. Maybe you haven't heard of it yet, whether it came on the 23rd or the 26th, whichever it may be. It ain't been out that long. I hope this is something that gains momentum over the course of the next few weeks. Because if a couple of these people don't win Emmys, it's a fucking travesty. And a shit ton of them need to get nominated. So I'm going to start talking about a little bit of the makings of the show, who's in it and whatnot. And then I'm going to get into just a little bit more detail about all the things I said about what makes this show so great. So it's created by a guy named Christopher Storer. I don't know this guy. I haven't heard of him before. But he directed a few episodes of Ramy, which also is on Hulu. And I've never seen it, though I do want to. I think it's got, like 2 or 3 seasons, something like that. I want to check it out. I haven't seen it, but he did a few episodes of that. He also directed a couple of Bo Burnham specials, which is interesting. He had a special by Hassan Minhaj that he directed as well. So this guy goes from stand-up comedy 1-hour specials to this Hulu show Ramy to what I now expect to be something that critics are going to be talking about a lot for the next few months. And this cast. Again, a cast largely comprised of people I've never even heard of, which is saying a lot given, I mean, you look at this channel, look at all the fucking content I put out. I watch a lot of shit, man. So the fact that a lot of these guys are unfamiliar to me, it's almost like they look like other people that I would be familiar with, but they're not those people. But I want to give the names of the major characters and the actors who portray them on this show, just because even if nobody watches this fucking video, I wanted to give these people, I guess, their flowers for the performances that they all do everybody knocks it out of the fucking park on here. So it stars Jeremy Allen White, who plays Carmi on the show. He's the lead character. Eben Moss Backrack is Richie. Lionel Boyce is Marcus. Liza Colon Zayas as Tina. Edwin Lee Gibson as Ibrahim. And Ayo Edebiri as Sydney. She's the only one I kind of know. She voices Misty on Big Mouth, or Missy on Big Mouth. And she's a great character on Big Mouth, by the way. And she doesn't play a Missy type character on this show, although you get a little bit of it times when they do interject some humor into this show. She has some great kind of like one-liners that are really good, but she's the only one that I at least kind of know from something. And then there's also some really interesting guest appearances. Oliver Platt shows up, and he's less of a guest appearance and more of like a recurring guest. He shows up in a few episodes. We see Joe McHale in an episode. And I'm not going to tell you who any of these people play, because I think each of these next three people play really, I think, have really great scenes. They each show up in one scene, each of them. Well, one of them kind of shows up in two, but really they each only show up in one scene, but they fucking crush their scene, each of them. So we get a scene with Joe McHale at one point, a scene with Molly Ringwald at one point, and a scene with John Bernthal, who is having a hell of a year. That might be an understatement, but yeah, a John Bernthal. And if you go look at IMDb, like, he doesn't even show up as being in this shit. But it's a great treat when John Bernthal shows up. So a little bit about this story. So Carmi, the guy, what's his name? Jeremy Allen White, who plays Carmi. Carmi is like a former big time chef. Like, he was like the top chef at like the best restaurant in the world, as said by Eater magazine. And there was a guy who was kind of doing his thing. Back home in Chicago, his brother commits suicide and leaves his like kind of like mom and pop kind of restaurant. He leaves it to Carmi, and that kind of forces Carmi to come back and run this restaurant. It's like a kind of like a mom and pop diner kind of place, like a sandwich shop. There's a kind of like a Al's Italian Beef kind of thing, if you've ever been to Chicago, a place like that, but a little bit more. I feel like Al's Italian Beef is very widely known, right? Tourists come there, all that kind of shit. This was kind of like one of those local staples where it's like, you know, all the locals will go to this spot and all the tourists will go to Al. So that's kind of like the vibe I got with it. But he comes back to run this place, and of course, these places aren't run like your fucking fancy Michelin restaurants and shit like that. It's run like a fucking mom and pop kind of shop, right? And he comes in, Carmi does. He tries to improve it. He tries to bring not just his business acumen to it, but his flair for like, his artistry that he brings to his cooking. He tries to bring that to this Italian beef sandwich shop. While he's also trying to manage the staff, who are, of course, unaccustomed to these types of systems, these more rigid, organized systems. They're unaccustomed to that. He has to manage the staff. They all got all kinds of other shit going on. And then he has to manage Richie, who I told you was played by Eben Moss Backrack. He has to deal with Richie, who is his cousin. He calls him cousin throughout the show. They call each other cousin, but they're not actually related. It turns out that Richie is related. Well, Richie was best friends with Carmi's brother, who committed suicide. So kind of like one of those family members that you call brother or cousin or uncle or whatever, but they're not technically related to you. That was Richie's affiliation with Carmi and his brother, who his brother's named Mike, by the way. So yeah. But what I loved about this show, I think the most, is probably these characters and the acting performances that these characters draw out of these actors. Real raw emotion that felt so genuine. How do you build up this three-dimensional of a character over 8 30-minute episodes, where you get it to the point where you're really starting to get a real clear understanding of how troubled these people are, what they've been through, and how it reflects in their daily lives. And to get to that point where you feel like you have an intimate understanding of who these people are over such a short runtime of a season, they do a lot of really great work here. And I think that part of what makes this it helps elevate the acting is the scenery, like the whole mise-en-scène of it all, right? It's a very fast-paced nature, right, that you have in this kitchen. And I've never worked at a kitchen, but I'm assuming that this show is a very realistic interpretation of what it's like to work in maybe not in the kitchen of a mom and pop sandwich shop, but definitely in the kitchen of like a Michelin restaurant. It's probably this level of frantic, intense energy. And the show, when I talk about this real and raw emotion, a lot of that comes from the fact that the show itself, with just everything that goes into what we see on the screen, is so fucking intense. And I think that they do that via, a lot of really, really tight shots. And the kitchen is kind of small with the tight shots. Everything feels so claustrophobic. And I think that just automatically, inherently, raises the tension for you as a viewer. If you see people running around frantically and there's shit going on and everything feels so tight and enclosed, and anytime anybody moves, they could bump into somebody, and you're hearing what I'm assuming is the real lingo that you would hear in a restaurant. And the necessity of that, I think, adds to the tension of anything could happen at any moment. They're going down an aisle, they're saying behind to everybody else who might have their back turned. They go to say turn a corner, they say corner, just to alert people, because it's such a tight, confined space with everybody moving so fast that if you don't do that, someone's liable to just turn around and run into you. So I think that how well they did that and being true to that nature and accurately conveying that feeling of that pressure and that intensity and just trying not to fuck up is, I think that really adds to what makes this show so great. You also get really, really, really big acting performances from a lot of these characters, man. Particularly Jeremy Allen White and Eben Moss Backrack. I mean, these guys, they play Carmi and Richie respectively. I mean, I can't speak highly enough. I haven't seen performances this good in years. So I'm not even talking about these guys had the best performance of the year. These guys have the best performances I've seen in a long time. I went through the previous year's best, outstanding actor in a lead role winners for the Emmys over the course of the past few years. I think I got back to 2016 for Rami Malek and Mr. Robot before I had to go, okay, maybe this is up there. Maybe that, I don't even know. It's even hard to compare because I got four seasons, I think, of Mr. Robot, and maybe in the range of 13 episodes per season. So I got to see Rami Malek do a lot more than I did in these 4 hours of this show that I did. But I don't know if I saw Rami Malek do what I saw on here consistently. So even then, I'd have to keep going back to find performances that can even sniff these, because Jeremy Allen White, I mean, he plays Carmi with this just repressed anger, tension, depression, and he carries it. You could see it in his body. You could see it in how he talks. He's trying so hard to restrain himself, and as the season progresses, you learn why he's like that. And what's interesting is that he has a coldness to him that comes off very asshole-ish at times, but at the end of the day, you could tell that Carmi's a really good guy. And I think one of the ways you could tell is that he always owns up and apologizes for what he does. And when you have people in those situations, a lot of times that accountability doesn't come into play. And you see it here, Carmi might blow up, but he'll come back and, I'm sorry, chef, I shouldn't have talked to you that way. That's another thing. I love how everyone calls the other chef. I've seen that in various television shows. But the idea that he brought that level of professionalism to a sandwich shop is just an example of what everything that Carmi was trying to do to improve this restaurant. And I don't want to talk in broad strokes anymore. I want to get a little bit specific about some of the stuff that I saw. But episode 7, Jeremy Allen White's Carmi has a scene that he has scenes at 7 and 8, by the way, that are just I mean, edge of your seat type shit. You are not blinking. You are not moving. You are not thinking. I'm not taking notes. No, I'm sitting there immersed in what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing is a actor performing at the highest fucking level. And it's incredible. The episode 7 moment, and it's not a moment. It takes up, I think, the entire second half of the episode, if not more. I had to go back. I watched it again, just the second half. So I don't know if this applies to the entire episode 7, but the intense portion of episode 7, the back half of it, incredibly intense. One shot, no cuts. It's fucking magnificent. Like, it's tough to put into words, but I don't know. The whole episode might have been one shot, if I'm being honest. I haven't rewatched it. I was so engrossed in it that I didn't even notice. And I watched it again before I came back, before I started to do this video. And I'm like, they don't even fucking cut here. We're just going like, and that's how you keep that tension up. It's almost like a cut almost inherently gives you a breathing point because it tells you that time has passed. Something has changed. But when there's no cuts, you just have that constant pressure and that constant tension, and it doesn't let up. And in this particular scene, this is the scene where Carmi, like I said, Jeremy Allen White plays him with this really bridled and restrained, like, anger, passion, depression, intensity, but he's holding it all in. He has to keep it together for the sake of this restaurant. And when it comes out, oh my God, incredible shit. Then he goes to an AA meeting in the finale, and it's because his brother, who committed suicide, was an addict. And he monologues. No cuts. Again, this is not a short monologue. There was a point in the monologue where I literally wondered, is this going to be the entire episode? And for the record, this is like a 40-minute episode. For the record, if it was the entire episode, I wouldn't have given a fuck. He was that fucking compelling. Like, man, this guy needs to win some fucking Emmys, man. Incredible fucking shit. I'm watching this monologue. Monologue is incredible. Ending to the episode is incredible. It felt like a solid ending to, like, if we never see anything else from this show again, we just get this 8-episode moment in time. Thank you. I don't need any more. If you want to give me more, I will gladly fucking take it. Day fucking 1, I'm there. But it wraps up magnificently. High emotional highs that can bring most people to tears. Like I said, I can't stress enough the tension and the intensity that persists throughout all 8 of these episodes. It's there. You also got humor. A lot of these characters are very fucking funny, man, and they pull off some great moments. There's one in particular, well, I don't know. I'm not going to try to explain them, but great moments. Eben, oh God, why can't I remember his fucking name? Eben Moss-Backrack, who plays Richie. Another guy. I don't even know what to say. Incredible performance by this guy. Richie is this kind of character where he's older. Everything's been a certain way since he was young. He's never grown up. And when I say he's never grown up, I don't even necessarily mean he's mature. I mean immature. I just mean he's not. He still feels like someone who isn't particularly concerned with his responsibilities or coming off a certain way. He's spent his whole life kind of in this relaxed environment with no real consequences, kind of just shooting the shit, fucking off, doing whatever he feels like. And he never grew out of that, but everyone around him did. And we see how this impacts his relationship with his ex and his kid. We see how this impacts his relationship with Carmi. We see how this impacts his relationship with the other employees in the restaurant. And what I love about this is that he knows it. And it comes through in his performance. He knows he's a fucking loser. Like, he hasn't grown up. He's still a fucking kid. He's still immature. He's still a fuck up. No one says anything, but it's very obvious, and he knows it. and it comes through in the performance. The performance of a guy who knows that who he is not who he needs to be. And it's such a great, complex performance because we see him acting like a fucking immature weirdo, but we also see him have some very low emotional moments. And he plays these, I mean, he flips a switch. In episode 2, there's a scene where he goes from being a dick, and you're like, fuck this guy, to instantly, it's like, yo, what the fuck? Like, I was watching, I'm like, that went somewhere. I had no idea. I did not see this coming. That was an incredibly powerful performance. And we're in episode 2. Like, it's amazing stuff. Like, I love thinking about Richie's character, who this guy is, who he knows himself to be, knowing that he needs to be different, but he really can't snap out of it. And that self-loathing that I think he has over never having become anything more than who he was. Like, imagine if you just stopped maturing at 25 and now you're 45. That's Richie. So not like a kid, but not someone like a grown, mature adult who is essentially running a business, because he was running the business after Carmi's brother Mike shot himself. He was, well, did they say he shot himself? Yeah, he did. Before Carmi came over, Richie was running the restaurant. Not the kind of guy you want running the show. And he's very stuck in his ways. Carmi comes in trying to change shit up. He's like, no, we need to keep doing this shit the same. He's complex. Carmi's complex. Their relationship with each other is complex. It's just such great character work, man. Character study at its finest. Sydney, who I said was what's her name? I don't want to fuck this up. I want to show respect here. Ayo Edebiri. I hope I'm not. If you're watching this, Ayo, well, yeah, whatever. Yeah, right. Ayo, maybe. I don't know. If you're watching this, I'm sorry I fucked your name up, but you were fucking incredible, so forgive me. But her character Sydney goes on an incredible journey throughout this show as well. From where she starts at episode 1 as someone who just shows up and wants to get a job at the restaurant because she looks up to Carmi and she's aware of his career, what he's done. The best meal she ever had in his life was one of his when she went to a whole bunch of restaurants. She came to New York on a one-way ticket, went to as many restaurants as she can, ate everywhere, and the best meal she had was something that Carmi made. For her, just wanting to work with this guy to where she ends up in the finale, her journey is incredible. A lot of her actions throughout the season seem over the top at times, but justifiable. Like, you can't say she has no right to behave that way. The only thing you can say is maybe she didn't have to go that far. But like, this is a woman who has dealt with a lot of shit in these 8 episodes. So when you get to these last 2 episodes, she has valid reasons to be upset and to respond to things the way she does, especially when she's dealing with people who, again, do not handle things in a mature way. Even Carmi, to a degree, you know, he's mature in certain aspects, but in other aspects, he's very dismissive. He's not very open to other suggestions. He feels like he has to do everything on his own. And Sydney's journey via Carmi and via this restaurant was great over these 8 episodes as well. And then lastly, another character, Marcus, who, again, I'm giving these flowers. Marcus, played by Lionel Boyce. He has a great journey as well. He does the, like, I'll say the bread stuff for the restaurant, and that evolves over the course of the season. You know, first he's making bread for sandwiches, but then he's like, when Carmi comes in and wants to kind of like change things up and make the restaurant a little bit more diverse. And when I say diverse, I don't mean like in race and ethnicity, like in menu options. Marcus starts to kind of like work on cakes, and we see Marcus maybe not develop a passion for desserts, but feel free enough in Carmi's presence to convey his passion for desserts. And he starts to work on like this perfect donut that he wants to make, and watching his journey on trying to figure out how to make this perfect donut and how it ends. I'm sorry, not how it ends, but where we end up when in the epic one-shot scene that I talk about in episode 7, how that ends up. What a remarkable journey for Marcus. All that to say, I can't speak highly enough about this show. It's perfect. It's perfect. It really is. And I mean, of course, I'm sure you could watch it again and be like, okay, this could have been done different. This could have been done. But this is about as close to perfection as you're going to get from a perspective of story, character development, tension, drama, excitement, the emotional impact, the acting performances. This is just the fundamentals of filmmaking at the highest fucking degree. And there's no fucking tricks. There's not a twist where you gotta, somebody went back in time and fucked something up. And there's not a conceit. There's not any kind of trickery or flashiness that's here to to hook you in. All they do is say, we want to get some great actors. We're gonna have them perform these well-written three-dimensional characters at the highest level. We're gonna tell a great and interesting story about these people and how they interact with one another. We're gonna film it in a way that makes you feel like you're there, that feels authentic to what it's like to work in a restaurant. We want it to feel real. And we're just gonna make a show that does everything right without all the extra shit. We can make a show that's just bare bones, just basic television, but at the highest level. So right now, The Bear sits in my new #1 spot for best show of 2022, and I don't see any fucking way anything passes this. I mean, it doesn't fucking matter. Unless Succession Season 4 comes out, which it just started filming, so I highly doubt it's going to come out this year. And even if it does, I don't even know Succession could top this. This was one of the best shows, one of the best first seasons of a show I've ever seen. Like, when I think about best shows, like, ironically, The Flash Season 1 is one of my favorite Season 1s of a show ever. I hope that doesn't deflate the praise that I just gave this season. But hey, I fuck with Season 1 of Flash is good, trust me. But this is one of the best first seasons of a show I've ever seen, and it's remarkable. So I could not give it a higher endorsement. It's only gonna eat up 4 hours of your time. Go fucking watch it. If they do a Season 2, I will be back, and I will do every episode covering that Season 2. But until that day comes, peace.